Welcome back to The Clean Truth by Roobi. We're doing a deep dive today that might sound a little intimidating at first, but trust us, the results are incredibly practical and, well, just fascinating. Today, we are undertaking the deep dive into sustainable consumer choice, unpacking how we pick our detergents. So, our mission is pretty simple. We're diving into some really sophisticated market research that uses complex computational modeling to understand why you, the consumer, choose one laundry detergent over another. Specifically, we're looking at how a product's physical attributes, the ingredients, the weight, intersect with your personal environmental values to really influence your purchasing decision.
Exactly. We're moving beyond those simple surveys that just ask people what they plan to buy.
Right, what they say they'll do.
This is about watching actual shopping behavior and trying to decode that intricate decision-making framework. Researchers call it choice modeling, and it basically dictates how sustainable products get adopted. We're really looking at how companies can use data science to align their products with ecology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the fundamental idea that drives this entire study. If we want to understand sustainable choice, we first have to define what makes us choose anything at all.
To set the scene, the research we're digging into is built on a very specific data set from the Japanese market. They use something called panel data.
Okay, panel data.
Yeah, and it isn't just a single survey snapshot. It's like giving a group of families a digital shopping diary that they keep over time.
So we're talking about real continuous behavior, not just someone ticking a box on a form saying what they prefer.
Precisely. This study used data tracking the actual purchases of 98 individual households over a period of time as they chose between 6 major detergent brands. That kind of granular behavioral reality gives us a much clearer picture of what causes what, rather than just asking someone, do you care about the environment?
And the goal of building this complicated statistical model was to evaluate the tangible and, I guess, the intangible brand values of those 6 brands.
Yes, and crucially, to assess their inherent sustainability attributes. They basically used mathematics to define the fundamental drivers of consumer choice.
The central hypothesis, then, the idea motivating this whole thing, is that our brand choice is explained by a combination of 3 different groups of factors. 1, the physical attributes of the product. So that's the concentration, the packaging, the actual formula.
Right.
2, the social characteristics of the consumer herself, like her income, her age, and, her pre-existing environmental consciousness. And 3, situational factors.
Like a sale.
Exactly, like seeing a promotional coupon or a temporary price cut right there in the store.
And when you have all these factors that are so interconnected and diverse, from a product's ingredients to, like you said, a shopper's tendency to use a coupon, you need a really powerful analytical tool. The researchers use this advanced, almost AI-level modeling to simulate the consumer's decision environment.
Hold on, 98 households in Japan. That sounds like a really small data set for this level of heavy-duty modeling. How confident can we really be that this is transferable to, say, the North American market or a bigger global consumer base?
That's a really important point, and it's something any critical thinker should raise right away. We absolutely need to acknowledge that constraint.
Okay.
And we will address the limitations later on. But the power of this modeling technique is in its precision. For those of us who aren't, econometricians, we just need to know it's a highly precise way of mapping causality. It helps us separate what a brand claims from what the consumer actually does across those 98 diaries. It gives us really specific insight into that particular market.
That makes sense. So we're drilling down into the mechanism of choice, not just the outcome. Okay, moving into section 2, let's talk about brand value. It seems the model's main success is its ability to, decode and separate what is driving the choice.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating here is how the model quantifies brand value. It lets researchers pull apart the tangible characteristics.
The physical stuff.
The physical stuff you can measure, right? Like the formula's components, the package weight, the dose size, all that from the intangible characteristics. And those intangibles are, the more nebulous things, like brand image, consumer trust that's been built over decades, and the effectiveness of a huge advertising campaign.
So if I buy a product just because I trust the brand name, that's an intangible choice.
Yes.
But if I buy it because the label clearly states it's a high concentration formula, that means I use less per load, that's a choice based on its physical attributes.
Exactly. And the model's results show which of those 2 levers is more effective in driving sustainable adoption. It's crucial for manufacturers who are asking, should we invest more in sleek advertising or in actually modifying the physical ingredients.
So if the model confirms that physical attributes are what drive green choices, how do manufacturers use that specific data, like changing the concentration, to genuinely improve their product without, just greenwashing?
The key is that the model uses detailed information on the actual physical attributes, the components of the detergents, to systematically assess the brand's environmental performance. This is correlation, not just an anecdote. Knowing the estimates of these attributes is highly relevant for the industry. It gives manufacturers the ability to scientifically modify those physical attributes in ways that address both ecology and consumer perception.
I find that whole concept of product weight really interesting.
It is, isn't it? A prime example is concentration. A manufacturer might decrease the amount of detergent you need for one load,
Right, making it more concentrated.
making it far more concentrated, using fewer resources per wash, while at the same time increasing the total weight of the powder in the package.
That's just genius from a consumer psychology standpoint. It means the consumer wants the greener, concentrated product, but they still need that physical reassurance of a heavier, bulkier package to feel like they're getting good value.
Precisely. So this way, the industry can make more ecology and consumer-friendly decisions that are based on empirical evidence, not just marketing guesswork. It's a systematic way to understand the real intricacies of why we choose what we choose.
Okay, moving on to the practical applications then. Let's look at the bigger picture. We've established the model exists, it works on a small scale. But how does choice modeling guide brands toward a truly sustainable roadmap for the future?
Well, it connects choices directly to verified environmental values. For a product choice model to be useful in this space, it requires comprehensive analysis from the company's side, too.
So it's a two-way street.
It is. They need to integrate things like life cycle assessments and ecological footprint evaluations to generate transparent information about the ecological advantages of their sustainable choices.
This is what truly empowers you, the consumer. So it's not enough to just slap a green leaf on the box and say, this is eco-friendly. You have to have the life cycle assessment to back it up. And the choice model tells you how the consumer reacts to that verified claim. That seems like a massive benefit for product innovation.
Absolutely. The benefits for industry stakeholders are, well, you can think of them as threefold. First, as you said, product innovation. The findings inform the design of formulations or packaging that specifically appeal to eco-conscious consumers. For example, if the model shows that transparency in ingredients matters most, the company redesigns the label to highlight those details.
Right.
Second, marketing and education. The models help shape educational campaigns, helping marketers develop really targeted messaging. They can demystify common misconceptions about eco-friendly products.
Like the idea that a concentrated detergent won't clean as well as a giant plastic jug.
Exactly that. We've all seen those confusing eco-labels. Education is just vital to bridging that gap between a consumer's good intentions and their final action in the aisle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the third piece, which is often the biggest barrier for consumers, is pricing strategy. The insights help optimize pricing. Manufacturers can make sure that you perceive the value of those sustainable features in relation to the cost. And this isn't just about saving the company money. It's about making sure that the average shopper, who is already stretched thin, sees that eco-friendly detergent priced competitively enough to make the switch feel, easy.
That systematic approach must also help address the inherent challenges in consumer dynamics, particularly the trade-offs that we all face in the store. I mean, choice modeling allows for the exploration of these trade-offs, right? The factors that might hinder or promote the acceptance of sustainable detergent alternatives. It asks, where does the consumer draw the line?
And this is where the model really earns its keep. It identifies those pain points. For example, maybe you love the sustainable formula and the biodegradable pouch, but you hate that the pouch format is inconvenient to store, or maybe it requires a subscription service.
Or maybe you prioritize the high concentration, but the initial price point is just too high compared to a less efficient national brand you already trust.
That's it. Understanding that nuanced balance, where convenience or cost overrides the desire for sustainability, is crucial for brands looking for a competitive edge. It ensures they aren't just changing things for the sake of it.
They're making foundational, data-driven changes that actually move the needle on ecological impact.
Exactly. It's about creating a product that is not just green, but also convenient and affordable enough to be adopted widely.
Now, we've covered the immense value of this research, but as you promised, we have to acknowledge the methodological limitations that were brought up by the study's own reviewers. I think it helps us understand the boundaries of the data.
It does. Knowing what the data doesn't tell us is just as important as knowing what it does.
So what specific constraints did the reviewers point out beyond, the geographic focus on Japan?
The primary constraint, which we touched on earlier, was the relatively modest size of the data set,
The 98 households.
the 98 households. Tracking only that many means that while the analysis is precise for that small group, we have to be extremely cautious about extrapolating the study outcomes to broader, culturally diverse consumer populations and global markets.
So we can confirm the mechanism of choice, but we can't confirm the exact preference rates for a different market, like Germany or the US, without running local data.
Exactly. And the second major constraint was the limited inclusion of certain marketing parameters in the dataset. This restricted the comprehensiveness of the analysis. For instance, the researchers couldn't fully analyze the long-term effects of massive, sustained advertising campaigns, the kind you see on TV or social media, on the consumer's final purchase decision.
But these constraints aren't really failure points, are they?
No, not at all. They actually tell future researchers exactly where to dig next, maybe by focusing on a much bigger, more demographically diverse data set, or by intentionally including detailed metrics on major advertising pushes. Researchers also need to provide much more context about the sample collection itself, where and when the data was collected, the specific household structure, to really build confidence in the result's applicability.
So what does this all mean for us, the consumers, and for the manufacturers we rely on? Well, the core insight we can take away from this deep dive is that through precise data modeling, manufacturers can move beyond just assumptions and make scientifically informed, ecology-friendly decisions. This directly aligns the physical attributes of the products, the concentration, the packaging, the formulation, with the conscious environmental values of you, the consumer. It's the ultimate feedback loop based on purchasing reality.
The entire hypothesis rests on the idea that these models provide a robust analytical framework to unravel the complexities of consumer decision-making in the context of sustainability. And this, I think, raises an important question for you to consider. When you are standing in the aisle deciding between two detergents, how much do you weigh a product's easily observed physical attributes, like its concentration, the package size, or the ingredient list, versus its less visible, intangible brand value? Its reputation, the trust you have, how a massive advertising budget makes you feel about the brand when you decide to go green.
Let's reflect on how the psychology of data analysis can transform the way you experience sustainable choices and the industry that supplies them. Thanks for diving in with us.